Applied Magic by Dion Fortune. Narrated by Matthew Schmitz. The group mind. The term group mind is sometimes used loosely among occultists, as if it were interchangeable with group soul. The two concepts are, however, entirely distinct. The group soul is the raw material of mind stuff, out of which individual consciousness is differentiated by experience. The group mind is built up out of the contributions of many individualized consciousnesses, concentrating upon the same idea. Let us take a concrete instance to make this clear. During the height of his popularity, Marshal Joffrey visited England and was accorded a great ovation. While driving from his hotel to the mansion house to be received by the Lord Mayor, his car passed through many streets. Individuals recognized him and stared, but no demonstration was made. But when he came to the crowded mansion house crossing, policemen held up the traffic, saluting. The crowd saw that something was afoot. When he was recognized, his name passed from mouth to mouth, and in a moment there was a wave of wildest enthusiasm. Self-contained, placid people were lifted and carried away by the wave of excitement, and found themselves shouting and waving their hats like maniacs. Note the difference between the behavior of the crowd when it functioned as a crowd from the behavior of isolated individuals, however numerous, who merely stared with interest but displayed no emotion. This incident brings to mind another mansion house incident very illustrative of crowd psychology and the group mind. Many years ago, Abdul Hamid, the detested Sultan of Turkey, visited England. He too was received by the Lord Mayor and drove to the mansion house. Exactly the same scenes were repeated, but with a different emotional content. He drove in safety through the crowded streets, individuals staring open-mouthed at the notorious visitor, but making no demonstration. But when the traffic was held up for him at the mansion house crossing, the crowd recognized him. From those quiet, sober, middle-aged city men, there went up a howl of execration, like the cry of a pack of wolves. The crowd surged forward as one man, and it was with the greatest difficulty that he was saved from being dragged from his carriage. Which of those individual city men, unadventurous clerks content with their desks, would have assaulted the aged and august Abdul Hamid single-handed? Yet, when caught up in the wave of crowd emotion, they were capable of making a savage attack amid a babble of animal snarlings. For the moment, something like an obsessing entity took possession of the souls of all and each, a vast something of a character which was not the sum of the mass of individual souls, but vaster, more potent, more fiercely and vividly alive and conscious of its impulses. Yet at ordinary times, the thronging crowds at the mansion house crossing go each their own way, absorbed in their own thoughts, indifferent to, oblivious of their neighbors. What was it that turned this mass of hurrying, indifferent units into a united band uplifted by the enthusiasm of an ideal, or an organism capable of dangerous violence? The key to the whole situation lies in the direction of the attention of a number of people to a common object about which they all feel strongly in the same way. Direction of attention to a common object without emotion does not have the same effect. The electric signs of Piccadilly Circus, though crowds stand and watch them, do not cause the formation of a group mind. With these data to assist us, let us consider the problem in its occult applications. What is this strange oversoul that forms and disperses so swiftly when a number of people are of one mind in one place? For an explanation, we must consider the theory of artificial elementals. An artificial elemental is a thought form ensouled by elemental essence. That essence may be drawn directly from the elemental kingdoms, or it may be derived from the magician's own aura. A thought form built up by continual visualizing and concentration, and concerning which a strong emotion is felt, becomes charged with that emotion and is capable of an independent existence outside the consciousness of its creator. This is a very important factor in practical occultism and the explanation of many of its phenomena. Exactly the same process that leads to the formation of an artificial elemental by a magician takes place when a number of people concentrate with emotion on a single object. They make an artificial elemental, vast and potent in proportion to the size of the crowd and the intensity of its feelings. This elemental has a very marked mental atmosphere of its own, and this atmosphere influences most powerfully the feelings of every person participating in the crowd emotion. It gives them telepathic suggestion, sounding the note of its own being in their ears, and thereby reinforcing the emotional vibration which originally gave it birth. There is action and reaction, mutual stimulus and intensification between the elemental and its makers. The more the crowd concentrates upon its object of emotion, the vaster the elemental becomes. The vaster it becomes, the stronger the mass suggestions it gives to the individuals composing the crowd that created it, and they, receiving this suggestion, find their feelings intensified. Thus it is that mobs are capable of deeds of passion from which every individual member would shrink with horror. A mob elemental, however, disperses as rapidly as it forms because a mob has no continuity of existence. The moment the stimulus of a common emotion is removed, the mob ceases to be a unit and reverts to heterogeneity. That is why undisciplined armies, however enthusiastic, are unreliable fighting machines. Their enthusiasm evaporates if it is not continually stimulated. They split up into their component parts of many individuals with diversified interests, each activated by the instinct of self-preservation. To build up a group mind of any endurance, some method of ensuring continuity of attention and feeling is essential. Whenever such continuity of attention and feeling has been brought about, a group mind, or group elemental, is formed which, with the passage of time, develops an individuality of its own and ceases to be dependent for its existence upon the attention and emotion of the crowd that gave it birth. Once this occurs, the crowd no longer possesses the power to withdraw its attention or to disperse. The group elemental has it in its grip. The attention of each individual is attracted and held in spite of himself. Feelings are stirred within him, even if he does not wish to feel them. Each newcomer to the group enters into this potent atmosphere and either accepts it and is absorbed into the group or rejects it and is himself rejected. No member of a group with a strong atmosphere, group mind, or elemental, according to which term we prefer, is at liberty to think without bias upon the objects of group concentration and emotion. It is for this reason that reforms are so hard to bring about. The vaster the organization that needs reforming, the harder it is to move, and the stronger must be the personality that attempts the task. Yet once that forceful personality has begun to make an impression, he speedily finds that a group is gathering under his leadership, and that this in its turn is developing an elemental, and the momentum he has originated has begun to push him along. When he flags in his leadership, the movement he created forces him forward. The solitary individual may turn aside and pause in moments of doubt and discouragement. Not so the leader of a strongly emotionalized group. As soon as he slacks his pace, he feels the pressure of the group mind behind him, and it carries him forward during his hours of weakness and darkness. It may also, if his scheme has been unwisely conceived, carry him away and dash him to pieces on the rocks of a misjudged policy, a policy of which he would have seen the unwisdom if he had considered the matter rationally. There is no stopping the momentum of a movement which is moving along the lines of evolution. The group mind of the participants forms a channel for the manifestation of the forces of evolution, and the momentum developed is irresistible. But however potent the personality, however vast the resources, however popular the catchphrases, if the movement is contrary to cosmic law, it is only a matter of time until the whole group rushes madly down a steep slope into the sea. For in such a case, it is the very momentum that is worked up which is the cause of its destruction. Give a false movement enough rope, and it will always hang itself, falling by its own weight when that has grown sufficiently top-heavy to overbalance it. This factor of the group mind is an exceedingly important key to the understanding of human problems and explains the irrationality of men in mass. There are some very interesting books upon this subject, notably The Psychology of the Herd in Peace and War by Wilfred Trotter and The Group Mind by William McDougall. These will well repay study for the light they throw upon the problems of everyday life and human nature. The occultist carries the practical application of the doctrine of group minds much further than does the psychologist. In it, he finds the key to the power of the mysteries. Considered with an understanding of crowd psychology, it becomes obvious that the method of the mysteries and the secret fraternities of all ages is based upon practical experience of its facts. What could be more conducive to the formation of a powerful group mind than the secrecy, the special costume, the processions and chantings of an occult ritual? Anything which differentiates a number of individuals from the mass and sets them apart forms a group mind automatically. The more a group is segregated, the greater the difference between it and the rest of mankind, the stronger is the group mind thus engendered. Consider the strength of the group mind of the Jewish race, set apart by ritual, by manners, by temperament, and by persecution. There is nothing like persecution to give vitality to a group mind. Very truly is the blood of martyrs the seed of the church, for it is the cement of the group mind. It is for this reason that the secrecy of the mysteries will never be entirely abrogated. However much is given out, something must always be kept in reserve and secret, because this something, which unshared with others and the focus of the attention of the group, is the nucleus of the group mind, the focus of its attention. It is to the group mind what the grain of sand is to the pearl forming within the oyster. If there were no grain of sand, there would be no pearl. Remove that which differentiates the initiate from the rest of men, and the group mind of which he forms a part will fall to pieces. The potency of ceremonial, physically performed, does not rest only in its appeal to the entity invoked, but also in its appeal to the imaginations of the participants. An adept, working alone, will work a ritual in picture consciousness on the astral without moving from his meditation posture, and this ritual will be effective for the purposes of invocation. But if he wants to make an atmosphere in which the development of his pupils will advance as in a forcing house, or if he wishes to raise his own consciousness beyond its normal limitations, transcending his own willpower and unaided vision, he will make use of the powers of the group elemental developed by ritual. This group mind, or ritual elemental, acts upon the participants in the ceremony in exactly the same way as the mob emotion acted upon the peaceful city men when they saw Marshal Joffrey. They are lifted out of themselves. They are more than human for the moment, for a group elemental, formed of the appropriate emotion, is just as capable of raising consciousness to the level of the angels as of lowering it to the level of the beasts. When our emotion goes out strongly towards an object, we are pouring out a subtle but nevertheless potent form of force. If that emotion is not a mere blind outpouring, but formulates itself into the idea of doing something, and especially if that idea causes a dramatic mental picture to rise in the mind, the outpouring force is formulated into a thought form. The mental picture is ensouled by the outpoured force and becomes an actuality upon the astral. This thought form itself now begins to give off vibrations, and these vibrations, by the law of the sympathetic induction of vibration, tend to reinforce the feelings of the person whose emotion gave rise to them and to induce similar feelings in others present whose attention is directed to the same object, even if they have hitherto been disinterested onlookers. It will be seen that the theory of the group mind is now being associated with the doctrine of autosuggestion as formulated by Bowdwin, and these two established psychological concepts are extended by association with the esoteric concept of telepathy. Take these three factors together, and we have the key not only to the phenomena of mob psychology, but also to the little realized power of ritual, especially ritual as it is performed in an occult lodge. Let us consider what happens when such a ritual is performed. All present have their attention riveted upon the drama of the presentation of the ceremony. Every object within the range of their vision is symbolic of the idea that is being expressed by the ceremony. No circumstance that can heighten the concentration and the emotion is neglected. Consequently, a highly concentrated and highly energized group is built up. As we have already seen, when one thinks of any object with emotion, force is poured forth. If a number of people are thinking of the same object with emotion, their attention concentrated and their feelings exalted by the ritual of the ceremony, they are pouring into a common pool no inconsiderable measure of subtle force. It is this force which forms the basis of manifestation of whatever potency is being invoked. In religions where the gods or the saints are freely represented in pictorial form, the imaginations of the worshippers are accustomed to picturing them as they have seen them represented, whether it be the hawk-headed Horus or the Virgin Mary. When a number of devout worshippers are gathered together, their emotions concentrated and exalted by ritual, and all holding the same image in imagination, the outpoured force of all present is formed into an astral simulacrum of the being thus intensely pictured, and if that being is the symbolic representation of a natural force, which is what all the gods are intended to be, that force will find a channel of manifestation through the form thus built up. The mental image, held in the imagination of each participant in the ceremony, will suddenly appear to each one to become alive and objective, and they will feel the inrush of the power that has been invoked. When this process has been repeated regularly over considerable periods, the images that have been built up remain on the astral in exactly the same way that a habitat track is formed in the mind by the repeated performance of the same action. In this form, the natural force remains permanently concentrated. Consequently, subsequent worshippers need be at no great pains to formulate these simulacrum. They have only to think of the god, and they feel his power. It is in this way that all anthropomorphic representations of the Godhead have been built up. If we think for a moment, we shall see that the Holy Ghost is neither a flame nor a dove. Neither is the maternal earth aspect of nature either Isis or Ceres or the Virgin Mary. These are the forms under which the human mind contrives to apprehend these things. The lower and less evolved the mind, the grosser the form. Those who have a knowledge of the little understood aspects of the human mind, whether Egyptian priest, Eleusinian hierophant, or modern occultist, make use of their knowledge of this rarer kind of psychology to create conditions in which the individual human mind shall be able to transcend itself and break through its limitations into a wider air.